What's going on, Washington fans? Welcome to the JTFB channel. It's your boy Josh Taylor, and joining me is my guy Donovan White, another Washington fan, but more importantly, a former college football player, MAC champion at Miami of Ohio as an offensive lineman, and now coaching on the field, passing along his skill sets and knowledge to the next generation. Donovan, welcome, man. How's it been?
Dude, it's been awesome. It's been a wild few years, kind of getting into this that little bit of podcast realm with you, past couple of years and some of the stuff I do on the side.
The
But
glory days.
yeah, but it's been an even better year with our Washington Commanders doing the great things that they're doing, man. So I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate what you're doing for the kind of space with here. Fun story for everybody. So Josh is like the first Washington fan outside of my dad, uncle, and brother that I've ever really talked to. I think we were just kind of messaging for the Tampa Bay playoff game. I think I started messaging yeah, it's sweet. And that was the first interaction, and then we've done it. We've been kind of
when did we first meet?
That was
the first Tampa Bay playoff game, not this last year, but the Heineke game. I think it was the first time.
We were messaging through there, and then we did an episode with maybe with Rio one where we did a draft one in 2021, and then we were doing some college football stuff throughout the years.
Yeah, man, good stuff.
Time flies.
This college football, it is crazy, bro. We were just talking about me moving, how I've been here in 2 years already. It's insane. But like I said, you're doing on the field stuff with coaching and stuff like that now. Going from a player to a coach, I just want to ask you real quick, what's that transition really been like for you?
It's been awesome being able to, to pass down what I was able to learn from, a great program like Miami. But I had a great offensive line coach, George Barnett. He's the offensive line coach at Iowa now. And so I always tell the story when I first worked with those kids, and I've been lucky. I've had a talented group of players the past 3-4 years. We've had, after this season, we'll have 7 O linemen in the past 4 years to go play college, 5 of them D1. So I've had a talented group, but the first day I walked in, a winter, little get together to do some drills, I'm starting to coached up my O-line coach did, and they're looking at me like blank stares. And I'm like, okay, let's just take a step back. And, it's different, man. It's fun. It's the high school I went to, same coaches. So I'm loving every bit of it.
So obviously you have to love how the offseason's gone with getting Laremy Tunsil as a massive, nobody saw that coming. That was probably one of the most shocking trades or signings of any kind since I've been a Washington fan. The Deshaun Jackson one always stands out to me because I remember exactly where I was and everything. But Laremy Tunsil right then and there took me by surprise. But then also equally as surprising to a lot of people is Josh Conerly Jr. in the first round at pick 29. And the writing was kind of on the wall with this pick because they met with him a ton. They brought him in for a top 30. And honestly, we're all it's cool. Maybe they're just if he falls to the second, who knows? It might just be nothing. They're meeting with a ton of people. But then, like I said, by surprise, pick 29, they go Josh Conerly Jr. And you were just telling me before we went live, you were kind of hoping for Josh Simmons, obviously, as an Ohio State fan. But when you kind of, take a step back and look at this, but the players that were on the board with Mike Green, Donovan Zaraku, Nick Score, there was a lot of defenders, especially edge rushers, on the board. Did this seem like a likely pick? But then also now, days later, how do you feel about that pick? And do you think this will ultimately be the right selection?
Yeah, I think I was rooting pretty heavy for midway through the season. I don't know. And I think we saw Jaden scrambling around a lot where you're like, man, let's just rework this whole offensive line. Laremy Tunsil trade, I think it kind of not hampered, but it kind of paused that overall feeling. So okay, cool. We'll have Cosme back. We'll have Coleman. He can go to right guard. Biotish is a really good center. Allegretti was there. So I think that kind of paused the fans' thoughts until draft season got closer. You can make a debate of, I think there's 3 pieces to this, right? Just real quick. The longer term one, and you probably talked about this, you get your left tackle of the future, right? Tunsil's not going to play forever. He's still elite. He's getting up in age. There's going to be
needs a new contract. Yeah.
And maybe Connelly goes to left eventually. Maybe he stays right, and you get a great right tackle for his career. So that's one piece. You get great depth, right? You can shift things around where now Wiley could be a guard. He could be a backup tackle when Cosme's back. You could have Coleman as a swing guy, even if he's starting at left guard. So you have so much depth. The biggest piece, I was telling this to my family, is if you just look at what was on the board, and I was a big Henderson guy at 29, even Hampton if he was there.
I thought that was a real possibility.
Yeah, I was big on what is the impact player that's gonna, like, you got to look at it. Who do we have to get through to get the Super Bowl?
And who's going to hit the most? Yeah.
Yes, we got to get through.
Who's going to be your day one guy that's going to make the most impact?
And you know, Mike Green, you could make the argument. I feel like people are kind of, they saw Jared Verse last year and they're like, we can have this. Well, Jared Verse is a freak show, right? He came in, he was like, I'm a pretty damn good defensive end already. So what's the highest impact player you can get? I was always on board with a receiver at 29. I was on board with a running back. You now look at adding your offensive tackle of the future in Josh Conerly, and you get an immediate impact. You make it easier for Jaden to throw it down the field after already adding Debo, getting Noah Brown back, adding Jalen Lane, right? So adding an offensive lineman, while not flashy, I still love because it's an immediate impact. And we'll get into why we both think it's going to be an immediate impact. But I think that push towards the Super Bowl, how do you get ahead of Philadelphia? How do you beat them? How do you beat the Lions again if that's who you play in the playoffs? How do you, get past Minnesota if they have another great year? It's protecting your greatest asset, and that's Jaden Daniels. And you can do that with wide receivers, like since he's done. You can do it with offensive line. You can do it with both, like we've done.
It didn't really work that well for Cincinnati.
Didn't work.
They got it to the Super Bowl, but they couldn't get it done. The thing that I think is so funny is we spent, a lot of the season like talking about protect Jaden. And then we go back to the Eagles and talk about the defensive line. And then it comes out to the pick and everyone's like, oh my God, what are we doing? And somebody said it, somebody tweeted it out. I forgot who it was, but it's probably top tweet of all time. Everyone complains about the offensive line from like July to February, become like right around the time for the draft. Nobody cares about them. Nobody does. But then when it's time to play, everyone's like, oh my God, I wish we had a better offensive line. What are we doing? What's Jaden running for his life? He got hurt. Like, if only we would have addressed the offensive line. And then now we do it. And there's a lot of fans that love this pick, but there were so many when the pick happened. They're like, what are we doing? This is the worst draft pick we could have had. So it's just so funny. I saw that tweet. I was like, that's the truest thing ever. No one cares about the offensive line until Sundays when it's time to play. Now, like I said, we're going to take a look at a couple things of relative athletic score here, because he is a freak athlete in my opinion. But then also we're going to take a look at some grades and his snap alignment. And then we have some film cut up we're going to take a look at. But the thing that really intrigues me the most about Josh Conerly is that I feel like he could have easily gone back to Oregon for another year and been a top 10 pick. But he decided to come out as an early declare, which you don't see often at all with NIL money and players making a lot of money in college. Were you kind of surprised that he decided to come back? Because I feel like Oregon's one of the top 3 teams next year. Great chance to go for a national championship. They reloaded, spent a lot of money in the portal, got a lot of big players, especially on defense. Were you kind of surprised that Josh Conerly even declared for the draft?
To an extent. I mean, some people were. I think he was kind of a slow riser, and then you heard more and more about him kind of midway through the season. But I was listening to Todd McShay a lot in the weeks leading up to the draft, and he said this for a couple different positions. But the intel he was getting back from scouts and teams was that number 1 OT this year in the draft would have been OT 5 last year. So overall, it's not that you had bad players. Will Campbell was a really good player. Membu was a really good player. Simmons, if he was healthy, probably would have been a higher pick. But this was a relatively, in just comparison to last year, it was a relatively weak tackle class. And so he's probably getting info from his, agent, or from however, you're going to get it around those parts to stay clean, that he was going to be that late first, high second round pick. So risking that injury, even for the NIL money, first round contract's going to pay you, it's Oregon, so you're raking in NIL money, but still comparable. You know what I mean?
Couple mil, but you're an offensive lineman to a certain extent. You're probably not going to get the high end of an edge rusher, wide receiver, something like that. But I remember about mid-season of the college football season, Josh Conerly Jr. was offensive tackle number 1. Yeah, Kelvin Banks is having kind of a down season. Everyone's like, oh, okay, he's kind of. Emory Jones looked terrible, and he just flew down the boards. And then Will Campbell, he looked good, but people I don't know. I think Josh Conerly Jr. is the better overall prospect. And then of course, Josh Simmons gets hurt. Unfortunately, he could have easily been offensive tackle 1 in my opinion, but that injury kind of, hurt things for him there. And then Membu took off late. He was a really late guy, but just shot up, the boards out of nowhere for a lot of people. But there's so many weeks in that like mid-season where everyone's like, Josh Conerly Jr. has the best film out of all of them so far this season. So I feel like to get him there at 29, and I really believe what Adam Peters was saying. They didn't think he was going to even make it that far.
Yeah.
And, we heard of a couple teams trying to trade up. The Browns wanted to trade up and get him. The Texans wanted to, which is so crazy because they traded back. They could have easily drafted him, but they didn't. And they wanted to trade back up and get him. They just kind of got a little greedy, playing blackjack, and they went over by accident. So, but I kind of was surprised that he was going to fall there to 29. But it's just crazy how things can just drastically change in the matter of like a month or two before the draft. And then on draft night when things happen, I thought Josh Conerly Jr. could have been a top 10, top 15 pick around like November of the football season. It's not like he did anything bad either. It's not like, oh, he got hurt or he looks bad. Like he did nothing bad except that one rep at the Senior Bowl against Mike Green that got blown out of proportion. But just looking at the athleticism and the size here, the main thing we hear so much about is arm length. So 33.5-inch arms. Does that to you pass the arm length test, or does that whole thing get kind of blown out of proportion as well?
It gets blown out of proportion. I mean, like, listen, for anybody who wants to know if an offensive lineman is good or has potential to be really good, you should look at numbers like this when it comes to your athletic score. That's a really great indicator. If you see a lot of green on here, that they're an athletic lineman, so that's already a plus. But then watch their lower body, like watch their base. If you see like chaos, if you see like that stagger, and I'm not talking like some exaggerated like Joe Thomas stagger, but like the classic O-line stagger, you see if that's maintained in their film and their reps and the highlights they show on NFL Network or ESPN, that's usually a pretty good sign. So like the arm length thing, he's got longer arms than Will Campbell, who is a great offensive tackle and has the potential to be a great offensive tackle, even with those shorter arms for the Patriots. The arm length is not an issue. Even some of the the things that light up red here. Height 6'4.5". That's a true 6'4.5". Listen, not everybody can be the 6'6", 315 behemoth that you want him to be.
I kind of like him a little bit shorter for pad level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want him kind of towering over some of these like speed outside guys. You don't see a lot of like 6'7", 6'8" pass rushers. Like you don't have these guys. I would rather him be 6'4", 6'5" than like 6'7", 6'8", like an Ariante Ursary, who was like, I think he was like 6'7", 6'8".
Mm-hmm.
But then like the 311 weight, does that concern you? But then also like the explosion of grade. I guess that's mostly for the explosion of getting out of your stance, like dropping back in your pass protection, or in the run blocking, if you're pulling across, being able to explode out of your base. What stands out about that, is the weight an issue? Because we'll talk about his strength, which is kind of like I don't want to say a red flag, but we'll say a yellow flag.
Mm-hmm.
But then also his explosion grade. What stands out about that?
Yeah, I think when you look first and foremost at his weight and his bench, if you want to talk about kind of that strength or functional strength, people got to understand too, he was playing in the Big Ten. It's one of the two best conferences in college football. You're playing against Jack Sawyer, JTT. You're playing against, your own teammate, Abdul Carter, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Played against his own teammate, Jordan Birch, had 2 sacks and 1,000+ pass pro snaps. So that's not too much of a concern for me. The weight, if the team thinks he needs to bump it up a little bit, he can bump it up to 315, 320, and he's not going to lose any of the athleticism. If you look just at kind of the explosion in the athletic, the speed grade, the vertical jump, obviously at 34.5 inches is pretty insane. 9.83 is nuts. I think he used to play running back in high school, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
They kept saying running back. I saw some highlights. I'm like, listen, okay, like that dude's just like a big fullback that was a little more athletic playing for a.
Yeah, they gave him some he had a couple red zone carries.
Yeah.
Which is nuts.
You can look at the broad jump number and be concerned if you want. Broad jump is a really awkward thing for anybody realistically, unless you did kind of have like that track background. For offensive linemen, it's a little bit of an awkward thing, but you just want to look the vertical that shows your explosion right there. The 10-yard split of a 1.70. That is insane. And that's nuts. A 5.05 5.40 is insane for any offensive lineman. It's insane for a high school offensive lineman. If you're a high school offensive lineman and you weigh more than like 265, 270, it's insane.
Yeah.
So that 40 split shows you the athleticism, but the 10-yard split really shows you the explosion. And again, you can go watch the tape and it shows it yourself. But the 10-yard split, honestly, in my opinion, for any fans that are concerned about any of that yellow for the explosion, at least in the athleticism, the 10-yard split tells you everything you need to know because it shows you how quick you get off, how fast you get in that little burst of space. That's all you really need as an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think that first initial burst is where you either win a lot of reps or you lose a lot of reps. If they're getting hands on you first and are getting outside of you, it's kind of a wrap from there unless you have really good recovery. The last thing I want to look at before we get into some film, obviously, you mentioned it, only 2 sacks in the last 3 years, which is insane. A ton of pass protection reps, 523 last year, 540 the year before that. So it's not like he was doing that on limited base by any means, but I mean, well above average, top tier grades and everything. But the one thing I really wanted to ask you about this is this here with his projection to go to right tackle. For somebody that's played right at almost 2,000 snaps at left tackle, what's that transition look like going over to right tackle? Like, how hard is that? But then, like, is that also something that you kind of have a concern about? Like, is he going to be comfortable there? Because he did get a lot of, snaps at the Senior Bowl. They love pulling people around left, right, center guard. It doesn't matter. But how hard is that really for someone who's played so long on the left tackle spot to go over to right tackle? Because you now have a Laramie Tunsil and you have to do that.
Yeah, it is the transition from switching to tackle to guard or from left to right side, I think is undervalued in terms of how hard it is for offensive line. People will just say, oh, you can just flip them around. Like, we'll probably talk about Coleman going from tackle to guard. Like, it's not as easy as a transition as you think, just because if you look at just from like tackle to guard, some people are saying put him at left guard, which I think is nuts. It changes everything and how your combos work. It changes everything. You got to be a better run blocker a lot of the times than you do pass protector as a guard, because just with the combos, you have the pulling aspect, pad level aspect. But for him specifically, it's not the only area of concern I'm going to have from flipping to right side is going to be that power aspect. Can he handle the bull rush a little more? Can he handle the speed to power? Because people are going to freak out, like we talked about the one Mike Green rep when he was a right tackle. Go watch the rest of the Senior Bowl clips. Go find more Senior Bowl clips of him at right tackle. I saw one 30 minutes before we were on here. I think it might have been against Femi Oladejo from UCLA, where he tossed him at right tackle. Go watch him at the combine move. And so when you get these athletic guys that are already athletic, they're already flexible. A lot of that has to do with flexibility. If they're a big, stiff guy, then it's going to be harder. He's already athletic. He's already flexible. I'm not too concerned with like the mechanics of it, because we saw it on tape and we saw it live at the Senior Bowl when your adrenaline's going. Like it's for them, it's about as high pressure as it gets outside of it.
It's one-on-one drill. Yeah. It's not like you have help. It's just you and him.
It's one-on-ones against the best of the best in front of scouts. So like, I'm not too concerned about a flip to right side. I think he has to be that right tackle. I think you drafted him that high to go be that athletic right tackle of the future. And so everything's trending positively for that. I don't think fans have too much to worry about. Again, there might be some growing pains, but that's one of the reasons why you put him at right tackle. And ideally, sooner rather than later, you have a Pro Bowl guard and Sam Cosmi next to him that will be able to help with that transition. Again, you never know what his timeline is, but hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I would hope it's like October, November, but we'll see. I think the one thing people aren't talking about enough with Josh Conerly Jr. is that he is so young. I mean, he's like I say, he is such a young prospect who is still raw, but I don't think it's so much in like skill set raw. I think it's just his body can still grow, which is crazy to think about. He's in the NFL now. Like, he can get bigger in an NFL weight room with an NFL nutritionist, and all that's going to happen. Like, his body is growing still. Like, that strength aspect to me is still developing because of how young he is. Like, you can't just, make him a 25, 26-year-old body. It's just how it happens. But then also he's going from a blind side protector. Now he's in Jaden's, peripheral visions, where Jaden can kind of see what's going on there. You got Laramie Tunsil, that blind side is going to be well protected. But as Josh Conerly Jr. is developing and really, settling in the NFL, I don't want to say developing. I think he's the best right tackle option in front of Brandon Coleman and Andrew Wiley day one by a lot. But it's just, he also has that now. And we've seen what Jaden can do when there's pressure, his mobility. He was the entire run offense last year. But I think that alone gives him a little bit more grace to where it's not like he is the guy protecting Jaden's blind side. So if something goes wrong, it's bad news for Jaden. Jaden can kind of see what's going on. If he has to help him out, if he has to step up in the pocket, he can kind of do that. So I think it'll be an easier transition. Yes, it is tough going from left to right side, but in the aspect of going from the blind side protector to now Jaden has your back saying like, hey man, if anything goes south, I got you. I can step up. I'll use my legs. So I think that kind of eases it a little bit for him. But what I wanted to do was get to some film because we talked about Abdul Carter and he shut him down. No pressures, no sacks, no tackles registered in that game against Abdul Carter, which is the Big Ten championship, which is like the big stage. So it's the biggest stage against the best players. What can you do for me? And obviously Josh Conerly Jr. is out here at left tackle. I have a couple cut-ups that we got from here, and then also the Ohio State game against JTT. There's somebody else. I couldn't figure out who it was. You'll know exactly who it is though. But a couple reps. So we'll look at some pass blocking and then some run blocking as well. But I just want to get your thoughts on like what you're really seeing out of Josh Conerly, like, whether it's his base, how he's getting out against his stance, especially against someone like Abdul Carter. So just walk me through this rep here. Abdul Carter is a beast. He's a burst guy. He can get to that outside edge. What's the one thing that really stands out the most about that rep?
He knows exactly how to play his angles. The biggest piece in pass protection, and it differs when you get to the NFL, I'm sure, in some capacity. But the biggest piece that I always tell my kids, and I think it's big for any offensive lineman, is the angle where you set. If you can keep your kick foot, so for those watching, he's at the left tackle, so his kick foot is that left foot. If you can keep that kick foot, if it's centered about right down the defender's midline or at least somewhere close, you always have the angle. And I always hate when O-linemen will turn their hips fast like that. It's Abdul Carter, so you got to give him some grace a little bit. But he already knows the angle of where to put his body, even against an elite player like that, and he doesn't doubt it. That is, I think, even in the face of a guy that at that point was still being talked about as a top 5 pick with Abdul Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the face of all that, even in the Big Ten championship game, it didn't make him flinch. He didn't freak out and try some new set. He stuck to his base fundamentals, which is keep your kick foot about splitting him down the line. Don't let it get over outside of his body because you open up that inside lane a little bit. And so he's got that. That's the biggest thing that sticks out with still protecting the inside. You see that right hand going right at that rep. Now, you see him get a little off tilt just a little bit, but that's where your quarterback and Dylan Gabriel, who is a great college quarterback, and Jane Daniels, who's an even better NFL quarterback, can step up into the pocket a little bit and make that throw. And he still finishes the rep great.
Yeah, I'm about to say Abdul Carter is still on the ground by the end of the rep. And, his base is still there. Wasn't, the sexiest, but it's not ever going to be sexy against Abdul Carter because he's going to get up in your grill and let you know. And I think it's so funny. I've seen so many reps, back in the day with Chase Young. There's so many times he would get washed out of plays. Everyone's like, oh man, Chase won that rep. I'm like, not really. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're getting washed out of the play, now if he was to, recover and spin and counter and come back up and hit Gabriel from behind, that's one thing, but that's still a win in my opinion. Even if Abdul Carter got this far and to where Dylan Gabriel had to step up in the pocket, that's still a win. There's no Abdul Carter won that rep. He got past him. I don't think so. I think Josh did everything he was supposed to.
Yeah, it's not a win by Carter there.
Yeah. But of course, Penn State's defense is loaded, so someone got there eventually. Now Josh is on this side looking at the other view from on a different play here. First off, I just love how Jordan James stands like Ashton Genty all the time.
Nonchalant, relaxed, and everything.
Yeah. So good little kick step there.
That's his base that I'm talking about.
That's his base. So
yeah, it
looks like he gets his hands first on Abdul Carter too. How important is that to where he can't really?
It's huge. I mean, he's making first contact. I think one of the things he'll have to work on. You can see in that first few kick steps. When I say base, clean base, boom, he's still got a clean base. I think he's going to have to work on keeping his feet moving when he makes contact against a guy like that. That's an elite pass rusher. Now, Carter's not necessarily a power rusher. He probably has some speed to power with his game, but the edge of the pocket, it gets a little shallow only because he stops his feet towards the end, right? If you keep playing it a little bit, you'll see he locks on, he makes first contact, which is huge, and you watch that outside foot drop a little bit. Again, he still wins the rep. Yeah, he still wins the rep, but you want to make things comfortable for your quarterback. But making that first contact, you can see Carter try to make that initial move. Nope, doesn't matter. I've got him clamped down.
Yeah, it looks like he was trying to do some kind of like a club or some kind of like chop to his arm there, but he kind of just like stabbed him like on the outside shoulder, which I feel like is key. But then Abdul Carter's kind of just using his athleticism, but still, I don't think that was a hold by any means either.
No.
I think he's clean enough on him. He's not like pulling his jersey down or anything like that.
No, defensive guys will always say it's a hold. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. We'll play offensive here.
There's that base again. There's the hands, and then boom, he's down in the dirt. He moves, and you tell me if you disagree. He moves a little bit like he reminds me a little bit of like a shorter, not as probably like powerful, because I think Morgan Moses was a really powerful offensive lineman. He's a little bit of a shorter, more flexible, athletic Morgan Moses. Like Morgan Moses was a borderline. Yeah. Like Morgan Moses was a borderline Pro Bowl guy for us. I think he made one or two for us at right tackle.
Yeah, Morgan was a really good prospect coming out, honestly. That's not like a trap or anything like that. It's pretty much just laying him down as he's using his momentum. Yeah, I'll take that all day long. Got to catch that one.
Yeah, seriously.
All right, here got a little bit of tight end help. Not much.
Switch into a different set too, a little jump set too, so he understands how to kind of play the game of, all right, let's switch this up, let's trick up the defender. And this is a spot where he's going to continue to see this against NFL teams where they have if I'm the right tackle, if I'm 65, I want to get vertical like he did. But again, you can still see some of the difference in how he moves, automatically turning his feet versus keeping that set versus how Josh Conerly. If you look at it right now, this is a great example of how these two tackles are different. And again, it's still a starting power 4 tackle for Oregon. You can see how his right tackle is
Cornelius, is it?
I think it is, unless he was hurt this game. And I think got picked up. He got drafted.
Yeah, I liked him for a long time. I just did like him. But I agree with you. Like the difference, the thing that stands out to me with this rep is just how solid like his base looks here. Abdul Carter's like on his tippy toes trying so hard to push, but he's not really getting much like leverage up under his pad level. Like, how about his hand placement? Like how his hands are on the outside shoulder there. Like what does that do to keep them like square, like facing each other?
Yeah, he's getting the first contact, even if his hands are outside, is still good. One of the things that I saw a lot in his reps is he relies on, he knows that he's going to make first contact because his strike is so good. He's going to have to work better on his hand placement. You want your hands to be inside. You get more power from it. You get more leverage. So he gets like that big, in this one, it still works. He gets that like big, wide kind of swing out. He wants to try to get it under, but he's got to work on replacing his hands inside more. Bobby Johnson, the Commanders offensive line coach, is going to work that out very quickly.
Yeah, that's easy. Yeah.
It's a very easy thing to work through with an offensive lineman. But even still, you can see the power. And part of that, the reason why he won the rep is because he did that jump set. So it confuses I think part of the reason Abdul Carter didn't get a full pass rush is because he's thinking, okay, this set could be like a play side zone set for him. Like that jump set confuses defensive ends thinking, okay, is this a run read or is this a pass read? That's part of the reason why I think he won the rep, because he had a smart set with it too.
Yeah, I think the only times I really like when I look at the plays where he does lose like by strength, it's because the defensive lineman has that straight jab up into the inside of his pads, and they're just like kind of pushing him back. And like you said, he has the outside instead of the inside, so he can kind of get up under his pads and use his strength instead of, it's kind of like an awkward. But then you can also kind of control him on the outside a little bit more too. So it's kind of like a balance, but it seems like that's the only time he does lose his strength. So I'm not saying it's all like a physical, like, oh, he needs to be stronger in his legs, his arms. I think he's a strong dude because there's some other plays I see where he's like manhandling some other guys. But I think sometimes it is just the hand placement. That's such an easy fix.
Was this pre-injury for Abdul Carter too? Pre-shoulder injury?
The Big Ten?
I'm trying to remember. He had it in the Boise State game.
I think he might have. He either got it. Was it in this game? I can't remember. I don't know if it was at the very end of this game or if it was like in practice or something.
Because if this is pre-injury, it shows even more. I mean, Abdul Carter with the shoulder injury was still damn good.
I don't think he had the shoulder injury in this game. I don't think he had it until the Boise State and Notre Dame game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had the shoulder injury in the Fiesta Bowl against Boise State. So he had that
Yeah.
injury, I think, either going into it or in the middle of the game. So this is a fully healthy. I know he had that issue with his foot that he was probably playing through a little bit. This is about as healthy as you got last season, Abdul Carter, that Josh Conerly's having no problems with.
Yeah, I think 65 was Cornelius too. I just
Yeah.
can't get that up my head. I cannot remember what his number is. But this is the reps that I kind of want to pay attention to because you've got two guys out at the 9 tech. I mean, about as wide as it can get. 2-point stance. What do you see here of Connelly? It looks like because Abdul looks like he wants to go outside, but then he cuts inside.
Yeah, if you go through, he's got a really clean vertical set. And if you look, we talked about in the very first rep about not getting your kick foot, so his left foot too far outside. So if you go through and you just keep going just a little bit, right there, he's got his left foot just a little bit outside of Carter's right side of his body, our left as we're looking at him. So it gives that inside lane. It gives Abdul Carter vision. So I think that'll be one of the things. And has nothing to do with a athleticism or technique standpoint. It has everything to do with kind of what the analysts were saying of he's a raw prospect. He started 2 years at Oregon, but we talked about it. He played a different position in high school. So like if you just look at some of what his teammates and like what other prospects rep wise have gotten as an offensive lineman, he has less, even though he's done it at a high level, he has less. So he's only going to build more essentially muscle memory as he's doing.
I mean, he's what, 21?
That's insane. He's 21 years old.
He looks like the baby face and all. Yeah. Like
and I'll say this: if he was playing, if he was sitting there in Oregon, we were watching him play. I don't know. I don't think they played Akron, but whoever their like week 1 or 2 G5 opponent is, not named Marshall, Mike Green.
They played they played Bowling Green.
Yeah, if this was Bowling Green and he had this rep, I'd go. That might be a bit of a, if you saw it against lower tier competition, you'd be like, all right.
Yeah, you'd flag it and go back to it and be like, what happened?
But even this recovery with that against Abdul Carter. If we think Abdul Carter is going to be what he is in the NFL and he had that against, I don't know, a Brian Burns against the Giants, right? We would be happy with that effort versus what we have seen in the past.
You'll see Abdul twice a year. So these are reps we're going to see moving forward. But I mean, his center did a good job helping him out, finding work, which is you love to see from the center. Same thing here. Abdul standing up, 2-point stance, tries to go inside on him again,
and a much better. That's the muscle memory, right? It's the play. Okay, I got beat inside. I got bailed out by my center. Let's make sure it doesn't happen again. Still gives him a little lane inside, but he didn't rely on anybody else to help him. And this is. If you play just a little bit, I'll tell you what the protection is. If he was on like the slide side, so if he was on the gap side, it'd be a little easier for him if he had that guard helping him. But this is just a straight up, it looks like just kind of man for man. Like you can always tell by that center because he's looking back and forth. He's essentially one-on-one on an island with Abdul Carter in a wide 9, stand up. It's an intimidating factor, and you still get it done by not making the same mistake he did a few plays back.
Yeah, I like his. I mean, he shows his athleticism. It's so hard at that size. I mean, I've never been that big before, pretty close, but to be able to kick out like that and then instantly right here see what's happening, and then he just scoots back inside, just boom, takes right back off. That movement. I mean, it looks like he's on skates. Like I love his footwork. It's like there's nothing stiff about it. He just looks. I mean, he looks like he's just sliding across the turf like it's nothing. Like right here, boom, back inside. It just cleans it up. So yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that stood out to me a lot was just his ability to move in space like that. We saw his athleticism. So now he's back on this side of the line.
A really good set, really good rep win. Easy.
Yeah, once again, if you wash your guy out to play like that, let his momentum just carry him.
Oh yeah, he's done. Transition to a run block, you're done. Or just push him back 2 yards behind Dylan Gabriel and let your, record-setting quarterback make the throw, make the play.
And I mean, Abdul Carter has insane, like you can see the ankle flexion here, knee flexion, the bend.
If you paused it right there and kept it right there and asked me who won that rep, I would, if I didn't know Gabriel stepped up in the quarterback, stepped in the pocket a little bit, just from like where Carter's head is, this makes the rep even more impressive. Just where Carter's head is and how well he can bend the edge, which you've seen and what everybody has seen, like it doesn't look like the best spot for Connelly right there because Carter's head is ready to bend that edge and get to Gabriel.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he can recover even in that millisecond like that and then win the rep like he did, not win, like this is a lot like that first rep where he kind of had him on the ground that we first saw in this cut up. It's a lot like that first rep, except it's way cleaner. And so even with that body position by Carter, where it looks like he's in the favorable spot, maybe a little bit too far upfield to do anything, and Connelly still wins it in the way that he did is impressive.
Yeah, I mean, against a lot of offensive tackles, especially if your arm is outside of like their shoulder, you're either ripping, swimming, something getting past, and then this offensive tackle's just turning around and chasing you down. Like, wait, no, like come back here. I can't let this happen.
Just
footwork. He never let him get that edge to a full extent. Now here's some tape you can appreciate. Ohio State, some JTT
from
tape.
Round 1.
Yeah, this is the good game. This is not the blowout at the Rose Bowl. But JTT stand up over there. Who's 0? Simon?
Yeah, Cody Simon.
So he drops into coverage. A little stunt here. 97's the guy. I could not remember who it was.
Kenyatta Jackson.
Jackson.
He'll be the starter this year for Ohio State. He'll be pretty good.
So one thing with stunts, you usually have a crash or a looper. Kind of depends on how things go. So like usually either JTT will just crash this line and 97 will loop around, or same thing, 97 will try to open up a lane and JTT will kind of cut through there and hope that this guy is just kind of confused with what's going on. So Josh Conerly is the one that actually gets the crasher on this one, even though it's like going to the outside. Boom. Kind of gets passed off to him. The left guard did a good job, passing him along. Said, hey, JTT's coming. But then for Josh Conerly, it's such an awkward angle. And I mean, IQ wise, I mean, he's focused on JTT at this point. You're having to switch like that, saying like, okay, I got to reset my thinking. That's not who my guy's going to be because he sees him coming. What's that like on these stunts where you're getting someone coming from the other gap that you weren't really expecting to just kind of get all up in your face right at the snap?
It's a lot harder in that look right there where you get your guy, your defensive end as the tackle that's going to go second, essentially. So Kenyatta Jackson, the 3 technique, is going first, right? If you were the tackle and your end went first, and it looks like they're on the gap side. So he has his C gap, the left guard's got his B gap in the center, just from the way he's sliding look, and has his A gap to the left side. So like it makes it a little easier for being on the gap side. But if you as a tackle, if your guy is the one that goes first instead, you have the guard right away and you can kind of just pass it off a little bit and you get to sit there and wait for that looper to come around as the second guy. This is where if I don't take care of like the 3 technique as the first guy right there, if I don't bump it off and take it over with my guard, then you're getting at least one free rusher to the quarterback, if not both. Like you have to work so in sync and know what it feels like to work in sync with your guard. And a lot of it stems from that tackle because the guard is not going to leave until he feels that tackle bump him off, which is what Conerly did.
Yeah, because if he starts to crash, this guy likely at guard's going to turn and try to help you out.
Oh, yeah.
And be like, all right, center it's you and JTT, which can kind of go south. Depends on this guy's like arm length and stuff like that. If JTT can get up in there, he can wreck some havoc. But I just thought it's a good job of communication, having that sync, on the offensive line, being able to trust, like, all right, I know he's got this guy. I can stay right here. If somebody else comes through, it could be a delayed blitzer. Simon could have dropped into coverage and then came down late. Like it could have been any kind of disguise there. And then here's JTT, hands in the dirt this time. More of a run. I wanted to see some more run reps. Jordan James, I think he was such a fun watch.
He was good.
He's just a consistent guy. But we saw a lot of pass pro. Let's take a look more at some run game. Josh Conerly on the outside there. JTT's coming out. We hear about, setting the edge on the defensive side. As a tackle in the run game, are you just trying to clear out that lane? What is like an outside zone?
Yeah, that's what it's looking like. If you're going as a tackle, if he was a guard that we were drafting, an athletic guard that it's some kind of tape, I'd be a little more concerned with his run blocking. But with what Cliff runs and what he's used to running at Oregon as a tackle, if you're looking at really the 3 or 4 options that Cliff likes to run, and most people like to run, but Cliff Kingsbury especially. You got the inside zone, and so as a tackle, you're going to have a block like this half the time, where really you just got to open up the B gap in there and let your running back make a play. And most of the time, the inside zone is going to hit in that inside A gap or B gap at the worst. It's rarely going to hit outside of you. But it's that outside zone right here. The running back's got a little more wiggle room to read between typically your guard and like the invisible tight end that would be next to Conerly. And so outside zone here, yeah, sure, you want to try to reach defensive end. That's what it looks like it is, just how all the other combos are moving. But
yeah,
this is if fans have concerns, maybe JTT walks into Indianapolis and starts day one as a really good player, and I think he can be that in the NFL. But like he is comparable talent to what he's a second round pick in the draft at defensive end. Typically is going to be comparable to what your average NFL starter, I would think, a second round rookie is going to be.
Should be.
Yeah. So watch these clips against him. Even Jack Sawyer, who wasn't taken as high, but was still a damn good end, and wasn't as high.
Really high floor guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like that he at least moved JT. Yeah, he moved him out to where he kind of just cleared him from the play. Like he's not a threat at all.
It's a winning rep against a high caliber defensive end.
Yeah. And James just does a good job getting yards. I forgot where he went. Jordan James. I can't remember who got him, but I was like, dang, that's a good fit. All right, now this is going to be a little bit more confusing for some people because you got the tight end over there, but you got him lined up. Who is that? Tyleek? No, Tyleek's 91. Who's 93?
I think that was it might have been Hero Canoe who transferred to Texas, or Edric Houston.
It looks like Canoe. I can tell from the back.
Yeah. I think I see 4 letters. I think it's Hero Canoe who transferred to Texas.
But I mean, he's squared up with him at the start of the rep. Like they're face mask to face mask.
Tight end did his team no favors.
Yeah.
I don't know what that whole scheme is.
Let me go to the next one. All right, here we go. 97 again. All right, so Josh is back out here where he belongs.
Mm-hmm. Patient sets. Inside hands were better. Kenyatta Jackson's dude with really long arms. So here, this is a younger defensive end for those that don't follow Ohio State football as much. Kenyatta Jackson, if everything goes well, is going to be like that next defensive end for Ohio State. That's going to be that one that should be like a JTT range, early second round pick, maybe higher if he puts it all together. But he's super athletic. He's got, like, you can see, he's got super long arms.
I'm about to say his arms look insane right now. Like, I feel like he could scratch his ankle just standing up.
I've seen him in person, like at games. It's insane. So like that's if people are concerned about like the strength or the arm length, there's a good example. Again, I know it's a young defensive end, but Josh Conerly, by all the experts, is also a young tackle,
just as young as he is.
Yeah,
but like the hand, like he went to chop to chop Josh's arms down, but it did nothing.
Nothing.
Like he's still right there.
Clean base, clean hands, done.
Yeah, like for guys with that long of arms, I was like, Jesus. He tried to get up under Josh, couldn't really get it clean. God, he got him killed. Was that Ransom that laid out Stewart?
Yeah, Gabriel had a few of those where he's getting his receivers killed.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I think it was a UCLA game. He had like 3. I was like, oh shit! Like, I was like, there, he definitely almost got him killed. All right, back here against 97. Ooh.
Another really good recover. Like good set.
Because it looked like he got pushed off, and then he tried to hit him with a spin move to like get inside to take advantage of that shoulder. But Josh
still got his hands inside. Started to replace. That's Kenyatta. Yeah.
Like it looks like. I mean, I feel like he probably thinks he's gonna just try to keep going outside here, but he does that spin move back inside, and then Josh is like, "Oh, okay, yeah, boom."
The recovery from that is insane. From that little glimpse that you had, it looked like a track runner start, where like he's got 1 foot up like that, and he recovers somehow to beat a really good defensive end still in that rep. Again, by the time of the throw, he was never getting to the quarterback. But like the rep for scouts could have looked a lot worse if he didn't have that kind of recovery ability.
Yeah.
And again, you call it recovery like it's a bad thing. It's not. Like it all happens so quick.
Yeah. I'd rather a guy be able to recover
Yeah.
Another little run block here.
Yep.
And he knows exactly where it's going. He just gets out there so fast.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. We're going to take you out, JTT.
Little pin and pull game. This is some of the same offensive stuff that Cliff likes to run with a little bit of, you got a little bit of jet option on there, pin and pull with the center and guard, right? Like
shout out to 72. Dude's just bouncing off of guys. Like I said, center pulls. Watch just go.
Yeah.
He's just wrecking havoc. But yeah, Josh, man, he did a great job. I mean, that's once again, just his athleticism, that burst. We talk about that 10-yard split, the explosion to get out there. If you're a bigger offensive tackle, you're struggling on this kind of plays. You're like, oh shit, here we go. So this is my time to shine. Yeah,
especially knowing that you cannot, like, if you just watch the whole clip, you cannot get beat inside. Like, he knows the play. He cannot get beat inside because nobody's coming to help him. At worst, like, his guard would help him from that pull, but then it would just wreck the whole play. He cannot get beat inside. He knows that against a second-round defensive end, and he still wins the rep.
All right, here's 92. Who's 92?
Caden Curry. He might start for Ohio State next year. He'll be like one of the main three guys.
Not like that.
Yeah. No, not
dude, I didn't see it. I didn't see him until
out of
late.
The frame is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like he just straight up clubs him on the outside shoulder. Look at that. Gah!
Yeah, it's good rep.
Yeah. I mean, is that even like a technique? Like, ideally, you're like, all right, we want to get inside his pads. We want to walk him backwards. But when you see a guy like that, it was a 7 tech. Probably it might be 9. But he's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna move you myself. I'm not really worried about what you got going on.
Well, again, hype afterwards. Yeah, it's a credit to the Oregon scheme and Oregon offensive line coach for how he coaches it. But like, this is essentially outside zone, so you can't just step and plant. Like, you could, even with a wider, like 7 technique, 6 technique like that, you could step and then just plant and be like, all right, cool. Like, you're not going to beat me inside. But the fact that Conerly knows you have to, as an outside zone, I'm not going to reach him. Like, that's not going to work. So he's got to expand that B gap, because if he just steps and plants and is like, cool, I'll wall you off, you close everything down. You close everything down on that B gap, and you force your running back, who's still good, to go find somewhere else instead of taking the easiest route.
The one thing I was surprised with the most with Washington last year is how much they really mixed up zone blocking schemes and man blocking schemes. Like, it was like they did a lot of zone to start the season. Like, all right, we're going to go gap heavy and still do some zone. But it's just like, I think they ended the season like 55% zone, and then like 45% like man. But you usually see some team just do something heavy, like in the 60s and 70s. But I was just surprised at how split it was, which is good because I feel like Oregon did that a good bit with their offensive line as well. So this is one of those. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I think they had to an extent. I mean, like, you had some really good moments from Cosme and Biotage and Coleman in certain games, and even Allegretti.
Yeah, they pulled Allegretti a lot.
Yeah, but you can look at different PFF stats. I'm sure all of us Washington fans remember different games. Like, even when games were won, where it's like Tampa Bay game, I was freaking out. I'm like, Cliff, stop running inside zone. Like, it felt like B-Rob was just hitting like up the middle, like just play after play after play. Which part of that is, wear and tear from him. Part of that's offensive line. So I think they had to switch it up so often because of just what you had at offensive line. And Tunzel and
running
Connor,
back, honestly.
And running back, which maybe with our 7th-round pick, who I'm really high on, could change a little bit. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, B-Rob had 3 different leg injuries, and Austin Eckler had 2 concussions. Like, it was kind of mixing it up. I feel like B-Rob is more of the gap type. Like, he just wants to hit the A or B gap and just go. Austin Eckler, he can be, but I feel like he's more of a zone guy. It's where he kind of wants to just go with the flow, find his vision, and then hit it. And kind of just he can bounce things outside, like we saw in that Cincinnati run. But I think even that play, I think Ben pulled. I can't remember what they did. Some with Ben Snots where he just laid somebody out in the run. But yeah, that's the one thing that I've been dying to know. Like, if I could ask Cliff one thing, it's like, Cliff, what kind of run scheme do you actually want to if you could, with what you have right now, do you want to do more zone? Do you want to do more man gap? Like, what do you prefer? But I don't think it matters with Josh, honestly. I feel like he could do both.
No, and this is one of the reasons I'm so excited about it. I mean, first of all, before we get too far into the run game, that's another great rep against, I think it's JTT again. And he gets bowled a little bit, and that's where people are going to say, okay, he's going to have to work on the power and the functional strength. The other piece people got to understand, like it's been 8 days since the draft. That means he's had 8 days where he's been on the phone and in the building with the nutritionist, with the strength coach, with his O-line coach, probably every day. So like he has 4.5, 5 months to change his body however he needs to, which is plenty of time with a NFL franchise. I'm not too concerned from the strength perspective.
No, and the reason why I wanted to put this one in here, because look how far out in the 9-tech JTT is. He's getting a full-on running head start to just bull rush this guy. He knows what he's going to do. He doesn't try to do anything pretty. It's just like, all right, as soon as I get past that tight end, I'm going to try to bull rush you.
Great hand replacement, yep.
Yeah, that's just so hard. And if you want to talk about strength aspect, when you have him running at you like that, I mean, he's an athletic freak too. JTT is, especially when it comes to his strength. But I was just like, man, having him come at him like that full force, for as many reps as he loses the strength, he can also hold his own. And I just like this one because he's like, hey,
I showed you that strength a little bit in this one.
Yeah, talking about and he wasn't done. He was waiting. He said, "Come back around."
Yeah,
I just love that play. I just the effort and just the nastiness, because he sees he has nothing on the left side. He knows he has help from Jordan James too. I mean, what kind of blocking is that? Like just a slide right, or
it looks like a full slide.
Yeah.
And again, part of this is Dylan Gabriel. He's a damn smart quarterback in college.
Yeah, for a dude who's 6'5", I mean, he's like 5'6". Crazy how you could see over them. Boom. Yeah, it looked like a full on slide. But you can do it with Josh's footwork for sure. Another little run.
Yep. Boom. Done.
Because that's one thing I really want to look at, because I was like, the run grade looks low. If you look at it, it's like 67, something like that. But it's still like in the upper tier. Like you're never going to have some tackle in like the 90s or something like in the run grade. But I was still impressed by how he was open up that lane and really just cut that out.
I think his run blocking, where he's going to have to improve. Like we've seen clips of him like in the pull game out as in open space as a blocker, which he's really good at because he's athletic enough to do it. We've seen clips against the top end talent where he's essentially play side zone, play side outside zone. So that right there for him is half of the zone scheme running plays. Like a tackle, you're either on the play side doing exactly what he's doing, or on the backside where you'd have to double team or cut off like a 3 technique. I think a lot of his probably lower grades are coming from like, all right, it's zone right. He's the left tackle. I got to double team the 3 technique and just maul him.
Yeah.
And there's clips where I've seen where he does maul him. Like he absolutely just demolishes them. But a lot of that, the fact that we see the strength in plays like that right there against Cody Simon, who was a third, 4th round pick, right? You still see the strength. I think the bad grades and where maybe some of the strength trends in the run game come from is really going to be covered up by good technique that he's about to learn here over the next 4 months.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I like this play because like I told you, it's just, you don't see a lot of left tackles be able to pull like this. Bam.
Inside hands replace it. So maybe I was a little too quickly spoken. I mean, I've seen reps now where he's, again, that quick little window wash, like wiping the window down, replacing his hands right away on Simon. This kid's got he knows what he's supposed to do technique wise.
Yeah.
And that, again, credit to the Oregon offensive line has been elite for a little while now.
Yeah. I mean, think about like Panay Sewell and I forgot who their offensive line coach was. It Tosh for a little while from Bama.
Yeah. This is a good example too of what Washington fans should be excited about. You get a ISO from the right tackle on the backside. You're getting pretty much like a gap scheme from everybody else except for Connelly who's pulling. So you get like a weird variation of like a like a power lock almost, like a power gap scheme with a lock. So like we all know how creative Cliff is. Now we all also know how creative he had to be with the cast we had at O-line and running back last year in pass protection and run blocking in order to get success. You now have Laramie Tunsil and Conerly, who are never going to be mistaken for like. I don't think Laramie Tunsil is going to be mistaken for like like a Lane Johnson. I think Lane Johnson's really, really good at run blocking, but he's still really good at it, especially in some of those schemes with outside zone and pulling tackles, things like that. It now gives you the creativity in a good way, where you don't have to be creative to hide things. You can be creative to just absolutely wreck somebody's world.
Yeah, I think even if Coleman, if he goes to left guard or right guard until Cosme comes back, who knows? I think that opens up some stuff for you too, because I think his ceiling at guard is higher than it was at tackle. I know it's kind of like a 50-50 subject for a lot of people, but you have at least two really, really high-end pass protectors with Tunsil and Conerly Jr., but I still think they're both really, really good run blockers too. Like I said, they're not like Lane Johnson or anything like that, but still, it just opens up the opportunity so much with them.
And again,
it's just one of those fun plays.
It's an immediate impact. Go get you a ring. Right? Like you probably got one more year of Cliff Kingsbury left before he moves on. It's that immediate impact to help him be as creative and maximize him as possible with your quarterback.
So we saw earlier in this game where Josh was the guy who kind of picked up for the stunt, but this one he's the one passing off and then picking up. So passes off JTT.
Really good. Yep.
Yeah.
Against Ty Hamilton, another draft pick.
Yeah.
And you have four draft picks on this line right now. He's gone up against pretty much all of them
and Simon
for Tyler Williams. Yeah, and you got five. You got five NFL draft picks on defense in the box right now. 6 when Sonny Styles is ready.
And I mean,
and he's had no issue with it.
I feel like 58 is he should be stronger, especially as a D tackle. He should be stronger than JTT. But JTT is the crash guy. I mean, you see. But the thing is, like, he can't effectively crash because Connelly just kind of passes him along. Because ideally, he wants to just wreck the center and the guard and open that lane wide open.
Yep.
Which Josh is like, And
it's a weird scheme they had going on too. I mean, that's not even a true. It's the RPO, right? You had the pulling guard, which makes it even harder. Like it makes it even harder to pass off any kind of twist. So credit to the center and Conerly, but it's a really clean job by Josh Conerly passing off and then being ready. Again, this is the harder one to do, pass that off compared to the other one that we watched.
Yeah. I mean, going full force one way and then saying, all right, I got to turn and now take this guy on. I mean, that's that little frame.
Strong.
The frame where he locks up 58, boom.
Yeah. You see, Diego back. You see Hamilton, it shocks back a little bit. Connelly's not a weak dude.
His hands are on his helmet. He's like, all right, I'm struggling to get my hands on him, but by that time, Josh already has his hands where he wants him to be. Still a little bit outside here, but for a guy that was coming across, I'm fine with that. Like, I mean, he couldn't do any. He barely moved him, so. Boop. He said, no. I'm going to trot down the field, see what else I can do. Oh, see, I love that, man. So, I mean, I honestly feel really good about, like, going back to the film and, like, what I've seen from Josh, both in pass protection, but then also the run blocking. We've both said it. I think him moving to guard is not even an option. I think he's just too natural of a right tackle. The ceiling is there at the right tackle spot. I think he obviously starts, week 1 at right tackle. But what would you say is like the highlights that Washington fans will see out of Josh Conerly, the things that really stood out to you in the film game?
Yeah, the highlights you're going to see is and you've heard this probably on draft night too, Washington fans. He's an elite pass protector. And I still think even as a rookie flipping to the right side against some of the competition of play, he's going to be a really, really good pass protector on the right side. So you're going to see that from day one. You're going to see cleaner pockets for Jaden with his 2 tackles being solidified. You're going to see more creativity in the run game, in the screen game. I mean, I saw it on Twitter a couple weeks ago, like how nasty that screen game is going to be with
Debo and Jalen Lane.
Dude, with 2 athletic tackles, with if Wiley's your guard for a while, Wiley's an athletic guard, right? Biotis is still really good when it comes to that pull and that screen game from his body. He plays not the most athletic guy. So I think you're going to see it from Cliff's creativity and from the pass protection specifically. And this has always been this, like with elite franchise quarterbacks, this has always been the one thing I've never understood from NFL teams. Like, it feels like the Ravens waited so long to get Lamar like some legitimate weapons. It feels like the Chiefs have now waited this long to get Mahomes and O-line. Like it felt like the Bengals have waited this long to give Burrow an O-line. So like I've never understood from those teams' perspective, like, why don't you just go do both? Like, get him the receivers, get the O-line. We're building what I've always thought like those teams should have done. We have our offensive line of the future with Coleman, Cosme, Biotis, Conerly, Tunsil. You now have what could be a top 6, top 7 unit in the league next year when everybody's
I think that starting 5 is nuts.
They're
all healthy.
Yeah. You have with great depth too, with Herbig, with Wiley, with Allegretti, with Dieter would be there, who's a different story. But you'd have great depth.
He's just depth.
Yeah, he'd be number 9. Yeah. But you got that with the receivers.
Yeah.
You're building what you need to do for a franchise quarterback that for some teams you don't have to. The Chiefs haven't had to, and they've won rings and it worked out. But other teams haven't. They refuse to do it, and look how it's gone for them.
The only thing we're missing is some tight end screens to my boy Ben Snott, which I'm sure is coming up with that little fullback, H-back type of plays. But Donovan, man, I appreciate getting your offensive line insight, breaking down some techniques, some things that he still needs to work on. But as such a raw prospect, his ceiling is already I feel like out of the offensive tackles that came out of this class, like they each have like their issues on things they can work on. But especially the guys in the first round, there's a lot of them that project to be some really good starters for a long time. If I had to look back and just say who has, Will Campbell has his things that he's working on. Calvin Banks has been around for a little bit too. With how much room he can still grow, I feel like Josh Conerly can honestly be one of the best ones in this class with him and Mimbu. I think Mimbu is already like a day one starter. I think he's gonna be the best one out of the class. But if I'm looking at the second best, I feel like Josh Conerly's got to be that guy. And I think he does really fit what they want to do on the offense. So I'm excited. It's definitely refreshing to know that we have Laremy Tunsil and Josh Conerly Jr. And like you said, who knows? Maybe 3 years from now, Tunsil's done, whatever. Like we get him a new contract. He's done after this 3 years, whatever. And then he's like, hey, I'm going to be the franchise guy. He's still like, 24 at that point.
Yeah.
And he's your franchise left tackle. That's nuts to think about. So, Donovan, I appreciate it. Shout out your socials so the Washington fans can give you a follow for some more offensive line talk.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at DonnyMac98, DonnyMac98. Got my other podcast with a couple guys at 614 Headsets on Twitter as well. You can follow me on there, interact as much as you want.
I've checked it out. Is it just like local coaches that y'all have? Like I've seen y'all talking about like different like offensive like styles and like schemes and stuff like that. You hear a lot of different insight stuff, but like how did y'all like start that? Like it's a bunch of coaches. Y'all just like reach out to the coaches in the area, or is it like other states like coaches?
Yeah, so we've had a good mix. So it's myself, it's my offensive coordinator at Gahanna Lincoln in Columbus. It's the head coach of Northland as well. Ryan Sayers at Northland's team in Columbus as well. And my offensive coordinator kind of brought it up about 2 years ago or so, 2-3 years ago, with the idea, and we kind of ran with it. We sat on the first one, and we were doing something other than StreamYard, and we couldn't get it to work for like an hour.
Yeah.
Let's just do this. So we get a lot of local coaches. We've had a lot of college coaches on there. A couple weeks ago, we had Matt Merritt, who's a running backs coach at the U. We've had some others. We had really random. We had what's the guy with ESPN? Not Adam Schefter. It's
Adam Rink.
No, it's older guy. I'd go back and find it. We had him randomly on there a couple weeks back, and so we'll get people from different states. We'll get people from Adam Rittenberg. That's who it was.
Oh yeah.
I sent Adam Rittenberg a message. I'm like, hey man, you want to jump on and do this? He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, sweet. So it's a mix of some in-depth technique stuff, some culture talk, some talks with players. We always like to do our all city teams here coming up soon, so it's been fun.
Yeah, I like anytime I can hear like coaches just speak, whether it's something they've learned from somebody else, just passing along. I mean, especially like when you go to like the Senior Bowl, you go to the combine and stuff like this, and you hear like scouts speak, guys have done it for a long time, or coaches speak. You can always get like one or two things like, I've never thought of it like that, or like I've never really like studied that enough. So it's always a good time. So definitely recommend checking that out. But Donovan, man, I'm excited for the season. Obviously, we've got a lot to watch with camp and stuff coming up. Rookie mini camp is next weekend, which is nuts. So thank you, Alec. Talking about Josh getting out there with his strength and conditioning and with Bobby Johnson learning some stuff. I'm excited, man. Let me ask you one last thing. Prediction for the season, or way too early prediction for the season?
Way too early prediction for this season.
We'll talk records. Are we going back to the NFC Championship game? That's all.
I think we're going back to the NFC Championship game. I think you're going to have a rematch with Philadelphia there. But here's the thing. Philadelphia is the one team that scares me in the division just because of what they're built like. I think if you look at what we've kind of done this offseason, where our strengths are, where they've not faltered, but just kind of the pieces they lost. They lost some secondary pieces. They lost a couple D linemen where we've added. I think you set up a lot better for that. So I think prediction is we're going to have that similar 12-5, maybe 11-6 record. We had a tough schedule. We got a really tough schedule.
Schedule comes out 14th.
Yeah.
So we'll know exactly where we're going. But it's a lot of tough opponents. Everyone on that schedule. Last year we had the easiest strength of schedule by the end of the season. So we'll see. But I'm excited, man. I think we're going to go back to the NFC Championship game. But Donovan, man, I appreciate you stopping on. Got to have you back. When preseason starts up, we'll break down some preseason film. Look and see how Josh Conerly Jr. looks first little reps in the NFL. But I appreciate it. Make sure y'all hit that thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.